The city is in flames, yet our boy's stuck in his own head, wondering how history's going to label him. Will they call him the loyal knight who stood beside his emperor to the bitter end, or just a total idiot who backed the worst possible ruler? This is Kane, an imperial guard who served an emperor that completely lost it and literally made a pact with a demon. Yeah, safe to say Kane chose the worst employer imaginable, and now he's thinking it might have been better if the world just forgot he ever existed. But of course fate isn't that kind. Cut to this guy absolutely breaking down over Kane's body, yelling at him and calling him a moron. That's Hela Reston, leader of the rebellion, and he's a wreck. He's crying, demanding answers, shouting, "Why'd you swing your sword at the last second? You could have run. Why didn't you run?" He grabs Kane's body and shakes him, yelling, "Open your eyes, you bastard." But yeah, Kane's already gone. Lights out, end of service. Now Kane's drifting through this bizarre afterlife that looks like someone splashed a Van Gogh painting across the sky. He's thinking, so this is death, this is freedom, just walking forever inside some cosmic screensaver. Kinda lame. Still, he admits it felt good knowing Halo cried for him. He figures he'll just wander this so-called freedom, when suddenly a glowing blue orb rockets straight at his face and dives into his eye. Next thing he knows, he's opening his eyes to see an old man who looks suspiciously like Halo, just ancient and wrinkled, announcing that the baby's healthy. He calls the child Karan, asking the father if he wants to hold him. Everyone's amazed the baby isn't crying, talking about how strong he is. Meanwhile, Kane's mind is buffering like a broken loading screen, trying to understand what just happened. Then it clicks. That old man, that's Halo, just way older. And suddenly baby Kane bursts into tears, because he just realized he's been reincarnated as his best friend's grandson. Halo thinks he somehow made the baby cry. But now Kane's just having a full existential breakdown in diaper form. Fast forward to history lecture. The professor is explaining how the noble knight Kane, who died alongside the emperor 45 years ago, is remembered as the ultimate symbol of loyalty. Sitting there listening is 10-year-old Karan, and he is absolutely not impressed. The professor adds that Duke Hallow probably pushed this narrative to restore his old friend's honor. Karan immediately shoots back. Now I think Grandpa's holding a grudge and deliberately painting his dead friend as a hero just to mess with him. The professor's face freezes. Karan continues, explaining Halo couldn't accept that Kane wanted a quiet death, not some heroic legacy. Instead, he's been turned into a full-blown propaganda symbol. The professor starts sweating because a 10-year-old just casually dropped the most dangerous historical opinion imaginable. He stammers, "If I agreed with that, the Duke's Knights might actually execute me, so I've never considered that interpretation." Karan laughs and claims he's joking. But the truth is, he's been reborn as Karan Riston, third son of Halo's youngest child, Count Pale. And he's still annoyed that Halo turned him into a legend when he specifically wanted the opposite. Speaking of his father, we cut to Pale kneeling in prayer. This man is ridiculously gentle. He never awakened any magic, so he worries he passed that weakness to his son. Karan puts a hand on his shoulder and tells him he's the best father anyone could ask for. Pale immediately melts, hugging him and squishing his cheeks, then asks what he wants for dinner. Naturally, Karan answers meat. That night, Karan lies in bed thinking about the upcoming awakening ceremony. He remembers Halo explaining that not everyone awakens magic. Even if you do, it doesn't guarantee becoming family head. There's also a secret only the head of the family knows. Young Kane once asked if it was treasure or a grimoire, pretending not to care but obviously curious. Halo promised he'd reveal it if Kane became head. Kane replied he'd rather live quietly somewhere remote. But now Karan's body starts glowing with blue mana. He thinks, "Don't worry Dad, I've had this handled for a while." Turns out he awakened long ago, he just never told anyone. Next day, the family heads toward the capital. Karan's ridiculously excited because he's about to ride a train for the first time. His mother explains the train's commercialization was only possible thanks to Pale. She winks, saying he's truly incredible. Karan's actually surprised, realizing that even without mana, his father is impressive in other ways. Pale funded the railway and magical industries that make up nearly 30% of the Duke's income. Still, Karan forgets all that and goes full fanboy over the train ride. As they travel, he spots the Reston main estate, the Azure Sea Fortress. Mischievous grin spreads across his face. He's about to see his old friend Halo again. The same Halo who turned him into a glorious historical icon. But Karan already has a plan. He's going to become the exact opposite of everything Halo praised. He'll make sure all that heroic legacy was completely wasted. Our boy is fully committed to speedrunning the family disappointment route. And honestly, after being turned into a propaganda legend against his will, you can't really blame him. He mutters for his old friend to wait because his precious grandson is on the way. The train finally arrives at the station. An old man named Hinrich greets them with a formal welcome, bowing respectfully to Pale and Karan. Karan notices the knights posted around the place, and they're already eyeing him differently. They can clearly sense his mana's awakened, and he's thinking these guys aren't like the weaklings back home. These ones actually know what they're doing. He figures it's only a matter of time before Halo realizes too, but whatever, not like he's worried about it. They reach the main palace where a woman guides Karan into a reception room and tells him to wait while his father meets the family elders. Karan scans the room and thinks this is just a reception hall and it's already enormous. This fortress is ridiculous. He's already getting bored, half regretting not asking to be sent to the library instead. Then a kid across the room starts snickering and says, "Heading to the library the moment you arrive, guess the rumors were true, total bookworm." Karan turns like, who even is this guy? The kid keeps going, saying that since Karan's father never awakened magic, Karan's chances are probably trash too. He adds that Karan better hit the books if he wants to earn money like commoners, just like his dad. And just to finish it off, he mocks Karan's haircut. Then the idiot really crosses the line and asks if Karan wants to fight. The kid's ridiculously confident in his magic, saying today he'll teach Karan a lesson. Karan just stares at him coldly and asks if the main family is raising delinquents now. The kid's bravado instantly starts collapsing as he realizes Karan's releasing his aura. He stammers, "W8, when did you awaken? Your father never said anything." Karan tells him his dad doesn't even know yet, then adds more importantly there's only room for one delinquent in this house, and he's claiming that title. The kid's completely confused while Karan decides that settles it, time for the guy to get beaten. Cut to the elders meeting. They're discussing Karan's awakening, already confirmed by 3 captains. Raphael, the second prince, is immediately suspicious, asking what Pale is scheming. Pale answers honestly, saying he didn't even know. The first son, Tails, tells Raphael to relax with the paranoia since Pale never awakened magic himself. Raphael calls Pale pathetic for that. Suddenly a servant bursts in, urgently telling Heinrich he's needed right away. Raphael storms out after the butler while everyone else looks confused. They arrive to find Leo completely wrecked on the couch, looking like he just survived a boxing match with Mike Tyson. Seeing his son in that state, Raphael loses his mind. He grabs Karan by the collar, shouting about manners and demanding to know what he was thinking. Pale tries to step in, but Karan calmly explains that Leo insulted his father and he couldn't just stand there. Raphael calls it nonsense. And Pale grabs Raphael's shoulder and tells him that's enough. Raphael snaps back, saying this behavior is the result of Pale's terrible parenting. That's when Heinrich drops the bomb. The Duke himself will judge the situation. Everyone freezes as they're summoned to Halo study. Inside, Raphael's still seething while Halo asks why Karan caused such chaos the moment he arrived. Pale starts to explain, but Halo shuts him down. He says he wasn't asking Pale, he wants to hear it directly from Karan. Still, he adds that Pale raised his son properly, and Karan wouldn't act without reason, so there must be an explanation. Karan's honestly surprised Halo is giving him a chance to speak before punishing him. He thinks acting generous doesn't suit you, you bastard. And he says plainly that Leo insulted his father. Raphael instantly calls him a liar. Halo slams the desk and roars at Raphael to be quiet, demanding how he dares raise his voice. Raphael immediately backs down and apologizes. Halo says they'll bring Leo in to confirm what happened. Then he looks back at Karan and says there's something else he wants to ask. Karan casually drops it if this is about his magic he awakened 3 years ago. The entire room goes dead silent as everyone's jaws drop. Halo asks why he kept it hidden, especially from his own father, saying it's absurd for a child to awaken alone like that. Karan replies that he only realized it was magic after reading about it in a book later. And once he understood, he thought keeping it secret was smarter. When Halo asks why, Karan gives the most chaotic answer possible. Having a secret is fun. He adds it was even better because none of the knights in his territory noticed either. Meaning this kid's been trolling everyone for 3 straight years just because he could. The butler brings Leo in, wrapped up like a bandaged mummy. Halo asks if he really insulted his uncle. Leo hesitates. Karan suddenly puts on an act saying that even if his cousin mocked his father, he still shouldn't have hit him and he's committed a sin. Leo immediately remembers Karan's aura, has a full PTSD flashback and blurts out, "Yes, it's true." Halo says punishment for both will be decided after tomorrow's awakening ceremony. And he dismisses everyone. Once alone, Halo asks Heinrich what he thinks of Pale's son. Heinrich admits he's unsure, but the boy definitely has interesting qualities. Halo agrees. He notes that Karan awakened on his own, hid it for years, and even seemed to question the strength of the knights in Pale's territory. Which subtly implies Halo himself neglected them by assigning weak guards. Heinrich says Halo might be reading too much into it, but Halo replies he wishes that were true, because this child is clearly different. And tomorrow at the ceremony, he intends to find out exactly what makes Karan special. And simply awakening magic doesn't tell the full story. And whether Khan will finish the ceremony safely, plus what he might gain from it, Halo's clearly dying to know. The scene cuts to an altar hidden deep in the forest, which is probably where the ceremony takes place. Night has fallen and our boy Karan is being escorted through the woods by basically the entire family lineup. Karan looks around thinking, damn, they really brought everyone out for this. We're talking retired grandpas who still look like they could throw hands, tails, his daughter Lean, Raphael, and even Leo. The whole squad's assembled and it hits Karan that this ceremony is way more serious than he expected. They finally arrive at the altar where a strange stone sits at the center. Karan mutters, so that's the Stone of Oath. Grandpa Halo steps forward, suddenly all formal, and explains that once Karan steps through the rift the stone creates, he'll be pulled into a personalized nightmare world unique to him. The objective is simple, find a weapon in that world and destroy it. Karan nods and says he's ready. Halo lifts the amulet like he's about to summon Exodia. The instant the amulet touches the Stone of Oath, reality starts glitching as space and time tear open. The pressure alone makes everyone brace themselves. Halo asks Karan if he's afraid, while Pale looks like he's about to faint from worry. But Karan just shrugs and says he'll be back soon. After all, breaking things has always been his specialty. As he steps toward the rift, Halo shouts one last piece of advice, telling him to overcome his fear. Karan walks into the portal, and immediately finds himself back in his old body as Kane. He's standing on the day of the revolution, still the Emperor's loyal lapdog. Karan's instantly annoyed, thinking, of course, out of everything it had to show me this. The stone is basically forcing him to relive the worst day of his life, shoving the memories of his fallen comrades in his face. As he heads toward the throne room, a creepy voice echoes around him. It calls him the child of the Blue Wolves and starts talking about some ancient covenant tied to his bloodline. Karan sighs, great, is this a demon? The voice answers cryptically, saying his bloodline's too pure for some ordinary demon to interfere. Then it basically tells him to stop hesitating and move toward the throne. He pushes open the gates. And there it is, the throne the Emperor obsessed over so much he made a demonic pact for it. Karan realizes all his comrades died because of whatever sits on that seat. It feels like he's stepping over their bodies just to approach it. The voice keeps rambling, saying the one blessed by the cold North Sea has arrived. On behalf of the Blue Clan, welcome home, and all that ceremonial nonsense. And Karan notices something. It's his old sword from when he was Kane, the one the Emperor gave him. The blade named Ruin. In surprise, it's still a demonic sword. The voice tells him to pour mana into it. Karan immediately refuses, saying that sword literally devours souls. The voice insists, claiming his grandfather purified it already. What he's seeing now is just a demonic illusion meant to scare him. Karan still hesitates because touching that sword means reliving everything, blindly serving the Emperor again. And he remembers Halo telling him to overcome his fear. And suddenly it clicks. Oh, that's why his grandpa was acting unusually nice about this. This ceremony isn't just about getting a weapon. It's basically therapy disguised as a trial, forcing the heir to face their deepest fear. So Karan grabs the sword and says, fine, if that's what this is, let's get it over with. Second, he channels mana into it. He gets dropped straight to the bottom of the ocean. He floats there thinking, is this the Azure Clarity? The sword suddenly transforms. The demonic blade fades into something pure. Karan realizes this isn't just any weapon. It's the original sword of his ancestor, Rael. His grandfather has a progenitor's blade too. But this one is different, stronger, older, and so unusual it was erased from history. And the sword goes wild. Power floods into Karan's body, almost tearing him apart. He barely holds on and demands to know what's happening. The voice calmly tells him to endure it. The sword is engraving its mana into him. Karan realizes this is the strongest power-up he's ever felt. Finally, he asks what the blade's real name is. The voice gets dramatic. It explains the sword was forged to kill demons and consume their power. It terrified demons so much they erased it from their own records. Born from the deep, dark, pure seas of the north. Its true name is Guillotine, the execution sword. Karan stares at it in silence. The voice adds that the blade perfectly suits his fate, dark and deep like the ocean itself. Curious now, Karan asks who the voice even belongs to. He guesses it might be the blue dragon, the family's guardian. But the voice refuses to give its name, saying he's not worthy yet. If he ever becomes strong enough to dominate the seas, he can find it in the North Sea. Karan's slightly annoyed, but he's got bigger concerns, like how he leaves this place. The voice says he already knows the answer. Karan grins. He realizes he just has to destroy the throne. And honestly, he's always wanted to smash that thing anyway. So he channels his mana into Guillotine and swings down with everything he's got. Back outside, the atmosphere is tense as hell. Halo notices Pale looking nervous and tells him to relax a bit. But Pale apologizes, saying it's hard watching his son face something he himself never went through. Halo gives him some calm, fatherly advice about keeping himself composed. Pale manages a small smile, but then the Stone of Oath starts glowing again. Except this time it isn't just activating, it's cracking. Halo's eyes widen as space begins twisting again. The forest pulses with energy, and the entire altar starts collapsing. Halo shouts, what the hell is happening? And right in the middle of the chaos, Khan casually strolls out holding his new sword like he didn't just demolish an entire pocket dimension. Everyone just stares at him. Khan looks around, trying to find the Stone of Oath. But it's gone. Our boy really said pass the trial and destroy the trial too, because why not? The whole family stands there stunned, trying to process what just happened. Hale is in full panic mode, yelling at Karan. What did you do? Why did you break the stone? Karan's panicking too, because honestly he has zero clue what he just triggered. Meanwhile, Halo is staring at the weapon in Karan's hand. His face slowly drains of color as he whispers, that's the guillotine. He knows almost nobody should even recognize that sword. It was basically erased from history, Voldemort level wiped from the records. Only the family head and elders even remember it through oral stories. So Halo, wondering why this forbidden legendary blade is suddenly showing up now. He turns to Karan and asks if the sword frightens him. Then Halo's expression shifts oddly as he mutters something about the Covenant approaching. Karan looks down at the ancient execution blade at his feet and shrugs. Now I'm fine. Halo nods, alright then. He begins explaining that long ago their ancestors made a pact with a blue dragon to eradicate all demons. But they failed. though they left behind the Stone of Oath as proof they tried, basically dumping the responsibility on future generations. And now it looks like Karan's the unlucky one chosen to finish what they started. Halo raises his hand dramatically and declares, Khan, son of Pale, is now officially recognized as a true member of the fortress, chosen by the guillotine itself, and worthy of learning the Spirit Sea style. Sounds cool until you realize it's basically a congrats, you've been drafted into an ancient war moment. Raphael stands off to the side, still salty about his son getting wrecked earlier. He mutters that he can't believe some brat is receiving this honor. Tails, on the other hand, is much calmer, mostly curious about the sword itself. While everyone talks, Pale pulls Karan close and comforts him. He admits he thought he knew every weapon in their family arsenal, but he's never even heard of this one. Just looking at it gives him chills. He realizes his son's walking a path he himself could never handle. Still, he refuses to let family politics ruin this moment. Hilo announces the awakening ceremony is finished. Time to head back. As they leave, Raphael loses his temper and starts shouting at his brother Tails. He asks if he's really just going to stand there and accept this. Tails replies they need to talk privately soon. Even someone as greedy and ambitious as Raphael should feel how serious this situation is. Raphael asks if Tails already knew about the sword. Tails says nope, this is his first time seeing it. Raphael basically spirals, muttering, "Why Pale's son of all people?" Pale tries to calm things down, saying this isn't the time for family infighting. But to the next day at the train station, Pale, in full worry dead mode, asking Khan if he'll really be okay staying alone at the fortress. Hinrich answers, is there anywhere safer than this place? Pale admits that's true. It's safe from outside threats. But what worries him are the dangers inside, meaning his scheming brothers. Though he doubts they'd try anything extreme while Halo's still alive. Hinrich clears his throat and drops some news. The one assigned to teach Karan the Spirit Sea style is Lady Sabina. Pale's face lights up instantly. He said he hasn't seen his aunt in ages. If she's the teacher, he can finally relax. Karan recognizes the name immediately too. He's Halo's sister. Master as skilled as him, once known as the White Wolf. Hale tells Karan she's always spoiled him, so he better show her respect. Karan promises he'll try his best. Henrich adds that the family head is preparing a residence for Pale at the fortress so he can visit anytime. Pale immediately tears up, saying he's incredibly grateful to his father. Henrich brushes it off like it's nothing. Pale says his goodbyes and tells Karan to contact him if he ever needs help. Then he boards the train. Karan heads toward the top of the fortress as Hinrich says they should hurry. Sabina is already waiting. Karan replies, yeah, can't keep my great aunt waiting. Hinrich instantly stops him and gives an important warning. Sabina absolutely hates being called grandmother. Karan should avoid that word at all costs. Karan thanks him, though internally he's thinking, what's wrong with calling a grandmother a grandmother? They enter the fortress. Henry explains only direct descendants are allowed into this cultivation chamber. He tells Karan Sabina's already inside, and Leo is there too. Karan perks up, thinking training with Leo actually sounds fun. Especially since Leo personally requested to train under Sabina. Karan says he's heading in. As he runs off, Henry watches him go. Thinking it's going to get lively around here again, Karan stands outside the door and can immediately sense the intense aura coming from inside, thinking, yeah, this is serious. Just then he hears a voice asking him if he is planning to stand there all day like an idiot instead of coming in. He enters, gives her a respectful bow, and his jaw drops as she asks if he's surprised she doesn't look like he expected, revealing she looks way younger than Halo. Like, this woman does not look like anyone's grandmother, and she casually mentions that he's Pale's son and says time really flies, making Karen's mind race as he thinks she must have reconstructed her body with magic. Which is an 8-star knight ability, but there's no way, right? She snaps at him, asking why he's standing there like a statue and tells him to sit cross-legged next to Leo. Sabina says she never thought she'd hear someone as young as him call her the White Wolf, and Karan explains he likes history and read about her in a book, making her smile and say he's just as interesting as her brother said he'd be. And when Karan perks up to ask what his grandfather said about him, she tells him that Halo said he's someone she'll definitely take a liking to, and now that she's seen him, she understands why, explaining that Halo told her Karan is a child who must navigate a vast ocean and she needs to help him so one day he can rule the sea. She gets up, announcing it's time to begin, and explains that by using Azure Mana, they create and operate oceans within their own bodies, meaning the more oceans they can operate, the stronger they become, and when they can operate 8 oceans, they reach the 8-star level. Stage where he can operate those 8 oceans as if they were one giant sea is the 9th star, and on the entire continent only 3 have reached that level, and in the Empire only 1 person. Karan says that it's his grandfather, and she says that's correct, making Karan determined this time to reach where Halo is in this life. She can feel the desire coming off him and says that he's an interesting boy and he'll be fun to train, then decides it's time to start. And she says first that he should let the mana flow through the passages opened by the ritual and remember that the power of the sea is not something to be controlled but to be accepted. He starts to feel his mana, saying that it feels like rough waves and he needs to calm it down, and he starts to focus it from his heart, and he looks much different than Leo in terms of how much mana he's producing. She notices this. asking if this is really the mana of a kid who just finished the awakening ritual, because even Leo, who has been taught the domination technique for the last 2 years, has only just begun aiming for the 2nd star level. But in contrast, Karan is carving out his mana passages on his own, even though she hasn't taught him how yet. Karan says he feels a pain as if his body is being torn apart, and he starts to stop his training, and she wonders if he's feeling the strain, saying it's good he can even control his pace. She looks over, noticing that Leo is tweaking off some vent, and she says she told him not to force himself to operate his mana, and he apologizes, and she says she was so focused on Khan she forgot that even if they've awakened their mana, they're still just children, but she just wonders why his hair is so messed up. That's why she needs to act like the adult to prevent them from harming their bodies. She thinks to herself that it's impressive he managed to stop at his own limits so he wouldn't strain his body, and at such a young age to have the composure to control himself despite his desire to grow stronger shows how bright her older brother was. But she doesn't think she'll need to act as his lighthouse. She walks over, calling out to him, saying that in 3 years she'll guarantee his safety and he should focus on building the strength to protect himself. And he says, okay, now it's time for practical training, so they head out to where all the other trainees are, and Fantasy Saitama is training too. Instructor turns, seeing Leo and come walking in, and Leo asks if he's really planning on using that sword for training. Karan says of course, as everyone kept saying its aura is menacing, so he's not even allowed to take it out of the scabbard, and Leo says that's not what he's talking about. The instructor welcomes the two of them, and Karan looks up to him, and the guy introduces himself, saying that today he will be in charge of his sword training, and he is the Knight Commander of the Seawolf Knights. His name is Zir's Winter Guard. Karan says it's a pleasure to meet him, and he can tell at a glance that he's at the 8-star level. Zir says that he may find this rude, but he will not be addressing them with the title of young master or anything, not until they are acknowledged. Karan says he shouldn't worry about it as it's more comfortable for him actually, since he's not used to that title anyway, and he's well aware that it's a test in family tradition to earn the respect of the Blue Wolves through skill. Zir says that's a pretty interesting reaction, since most would find it disrespectful, and Leo is no exception, and Leo just wonders why he's catching a stray. Karan stares at him, laughs, and says it won't matter as they will all bow before his feet, and Zir says that maybe a successor with a proper head on his shoulders has finally arrived. But then he looks at our boy, and he was making a menacing face, and Zir's quickly changed his opinion, thinking that maybe someone even worse than that scum Leo has arrived. The scene shifts, and we get a whole 3-year time skip, and Halo's just chilling, having a few drinks with her sister, and she's going on about how her brother's liquor collection is absolutely fire. Halo clearly likes the compliment, but goes, yeah, that's true, but maybe stop raiding my stash, will you? But Sabina just brushes him off, saying that's the least he can do after she spent 3 years teaching those brats. Halo gets a bit nostalgic and asks Sabina what she thinks of the boy after watching him all these years. Sabina doesn't hesitate, she straight up calls Karan a monster. Halo instantly reacts like, excuse me, you just called my grandson a monster. But Sabina doubles down, saying that even calling him a genius would be underselling it at this point. Halo turns to Zir like, come on, back me up here. Zir just shakes his head, nope, she's right. After watching the kid for 3 years, he agrees with every word. He starts listing it off: Khan's physical ability, talent, mentality, discipline. And he drops the real bomb. Khan is actually outperforming Hugo, the first grand heir everyone thought was the ultimate prodigy. Halo's brain basically stalls. Wait, you're saying he's on Hugo's level, the guy considered the best talent in the entire empire? Zir nods calmly, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Now Sabina turns serious. She warns this could create major problems for the family if they don't handle it carefully. Halo looks confused. She explains they need to consider what Karen's existence means for the succession line. What happens when his talent becomes public, and his uncles realize their own sons are being overshadowed by their nephew. Halo tries to defend his sons, asking if she really thinks they'd see their nephew as a rival. Sabina isn't convinced. Sure, things are stable while Halo's in charge, but once word spreads across the empire about Khan's absurd talent, things could spiral fast. Halo admits she's not wrong, and Sabina's expression softens. She asks if this might be the end of their family now that the Oath Stone is broken. On top of that, magical beasts are flooding in from beyond the North Sea. Looking at everything together, the situation doesn't look good. But Halo tells her not to dwell on it. The one who broke the stone is destined to raise a new one, just like their founding ancestor once did. Sabina pauses, hold on first, I've heard of this. Is this some prophecy only the family head knows? Halo confirms it. The time of the covenant is approaching. Sabina sighs, realizing their youngest is about to carry a massive burden. She asks when Halo plans to tell Karan the truth. Halo simply says he'll tell him when the time comes. Scene shift. Hale is reading a letter from our boy. It starts normal enough, asking how his parents are doing. He apologizes for not visiting because he's been training nonstop. He tells his father to stay warm since winter's coming, and he knows he gets cold easily. and he casually drops that he's already mastered 4-star sea control and the 4th form of herring swordsmanship too. He says he's getting along with the relatives and looking after Leo. And comes the real reason for the letter. He's broke and needs more allowance. Back with Pale, the man's laughing while asking Heinrich if he remembers how worried he was 3 years ago. Now the kid's doing great. Heinrich mentions the fortress hasn't been quiet since Karen arrived. Pale says he keeps telling the boy not to stand out so much. Heinrich replies with a poetic line, "A jewel shines even when covered." Then the tone shifts. He warns the situation is changing. They won't be able to hide Karen's abilities much longer. He'll probably be assigned a real mission soon. Hale worries because his older brothers won't like Karen's rise. Heinrich reassures him that Sabina absolutely adores the boy. With her backing, the brothers won't dare try anything reckless. Hale relaxes a little, saying Karen mentions Sabina in every letter. Still, it's good to hear confirmation. Heinrich adds that Sabina's always had a soft spot for Pale too. Hale jokes that the monthly allowances she sends must help. But then Pale's mood shifts again. He's heard Sabina may be leaving the fortress soon. Heinrich tells him not to panic. Karen's built strong bonds with the knights. They've even given him a nickname, which is a big deal there. Hale laughs, saying he already knows it. They call him the young mad dog of the Azure Sea Fortress. Cut to training. Karen is absolutely shredding a knight's blade mid-spar. The knight hand shouts for him to stop, saying he already lost. He asks how Karen redirected his sword and still tanked the hit. Karen bluntly says he's just weak. Grown man shouldn't be that easy to overpower, and his muscles are just for decoration. Hands look stunned. Nobody ever told him he's weak before, or that his muscles are cosmetic. But Karen's just being honest. Hands admits fighting Karen without magic is basically impossible now. It wasn't even this bad last year. He mentions Karen might get deployed soon, possibly to the Western Granary region where magical beast sightings are rising. Karen immediately turns to Leo asking if he heard that. Leo says he absolutely does not want to be deployed with Karen. The guy sparring him tells him to focus on his own fight. Leo apologizes but says finishing a mission might finally make his parents proud. But back to Pale and Heinrich. Pale says he didn't call him here because of the letters. There's something else. He shows him something inspectors found in a merchant wagon from the barony of Bellies. Heinrich studies it and asks if it's what he thinks it is. Pale nods. Yeah. It's drugs, and that's why he needs Heinrich to investigate. The Barony of Bellies. The scene cuts and we see a man stepping off a train asking if this is the Azure Sea Fortress. Cut to our boy Khan, who's currently raiding Zur's liquor stash with absolutely no shame. He's thinking that just because he's stuck in a kid's body doesn't mean he forgot what good alcohol tastes like. Besides, sneaking drinks from Zur never stops being fun, and he notices 2 unfamiliar faces nearby. One of them is asking a butler if it's true the Duke left on urgent business. The butler confirms the Duke went to the capital to deal with the king, so the knight commander is handling things for now. Karan calls out to them and the butler nearly jumps out of his skin when he notices him. Karan asks what brings them here so late. The man introduces himself as Baron Rohan of House Bellies and says he's come with an urgent request. Karan studies him silently while Rohan continues talking. He starts explaining that Karan is the son of the 3rd prince who lost his place in succession. Unlike his father though, Karan awakened magic and now trains at the main house. He keeps giving this formal introduction while Karan is literally standing there holding stolen alcohol. Karan cuts through the ceremony and tells him to just get to the point. The butler suggests sending Rohan to the knight commander instead. But Rohan's distracted, wondering why this child is casually holding a bottle of liquor. Karan explains that normally matters like this are handled through intermediaries. But if Rohan came all this way personally, it must be serious. It's only proper and noble receives him directly. The butler says he'll inform Zur separately. Karan nods and tells him to do that. Rohan thinks the boy's political sense is impressive, but the alcohol in his hand is still throwing him off. He's genuinely wondering if the family is okay with a 12-year-old drinking. Karan skips the small talk and asks if this is about the bandits camped in the eastern mountains of the barony. Rohan confirms it immediately. Karan continues, saying ever since they showed up, drugs have flooded the region. Commoners are being kidnapped and sold as slaves. Rohan admits it's shameful, but their territory has terrible land and no resources. They haven't maintained a proper army for over a year, though they couldn't fight back. His father finally led the remaining soldiers in an attack. It went exactly how you'd expect. They were crushed. Now his father is bedridden from his injuries. Rohan blames himself for both his father's condition and the suffering of the people. Karan sets the bottle down and says scum like that deserve to be wiped out. But something feels off. Even a weak army shouldn't lose to simple bandits. Rohan says it's not confirmed, but they suspect deserters from the Southern Kingdom's war may be mixed in. Karan thinks it over. Ever since the evil emperor was overthrown, the reduced imperial army has focused entirely on the Southern War, which means the North has almost no protection. Well, the deserter theory actually makes sense. Then Karan suddenly switches tone and asks if Rohan wants a drink since the mood's gotten heavy. He explains the barony borders his father's lands. From his position, he can't just ignore what's happening. If possible, he wants to help personally. Rohan thanks him but wonders internally if he should really accept alcohol from a literal child. Karan casually admits the bottle came from Zur's collection, though they should probably keep it quiet. Rohan points out Zur is the knight commander. Right on cue, Zur walks in saying he thought they agreed Karan would stop stealing his liquor. Rohan nearly collapses from shock. Zura apologizes for the scene and says the young baron couldn't have known the situation here. He adds that he's already heard about the bandits troubling the barony. Rohan confirms that's exactly why he came, to ask if the knights might help. Zura agrees it's urgent. Karan is laughing in the background. Zura tells him alcohol isn't appropriate at his age and takes the cup away. Karan complains about losing his drink. Zura apologizes to Rohan for the chaos. Rohan says it's fine. Zura turns serious and says they won't ignore an old ally in trouble. They'll organize troops and dispatch soon. Rohan feels relief he can finally bring good news home. Then Karan announces he wants to go too. Zura shuts that down instantly. The enemy is trained and they don't know what level of fighters are involved. Rohan wonders if the kid is actually serious. Zura trains at the main house, but he looks barely 12. Zura admits that in just 3 years Karan reached 4th star magic, in the 4th form of their swordsmanship. But real combat is different. Karan argues that overprotection won't help him grow. He'd rather face a visible danger than an unseen one. Zura says he has zero intention of letting Karan fight enemies when they don't know their strength or base. Karan grins and says he'll make Zura an offer he can't refuse. Both Zura and Rohan are like, what could that possibly be? But to Coconut Head asking why he's even here. Karan's excited, saying this is their first mission. Zura realizes he's been played. He can't believe Karan dragged Sabina into this. Sabina just smiles, saying the two of them are adorable. Zura admits it might work out. With a reliable guardian going, the risk is lower. He says she got excited on her first mission too back in the day. Zura figures if Karan agreed only on the condition Leo comes along, then she must be satisfied with Leo's training. Rohan's mind is blown that they actually have got the legendary White Wolf with them, but Rohan's still uneasy about sending just 2 kids. If anything happens to the Duke's grandson, his house could end up taking the blame. Zura tells him to calm down, the things he's worried about aren't going to happen. Rohan asks if his concern was that obvious. Zura says with Sabina around, nothing will happen to those two. And Sabina drops the real bomb. Unless the boys are in actual mortal danger, she has no intention of stepping in. Leo and Rohan both look horrified. Zura sighs, saying he understands she trusts their growth. But that's still pretty brutal. He replies that he knows there's more behind it. There's a reason she can't act openly. Zura nods and says he gets it. If that's her decision, he'll respect it. The train whistle sounds, signaling departure. Sabina says time's up. Leo looks pale, nerves written all over him. Sabina tells him it's normal to be nervous. He should see this as his chance to prove how hard he's trained these last 3 years. Chance to be acknowledged as a true blue wolf. Leo says she's right. Karan teases him, asking if he always needs someone pushing him forward. Leo snaps at him to shut up and the two board the train. Karan says he'll go find their seats. Leo thinks he always knew this day would come. He just didn't expect it this soon. Hours pass on the train, and naturally conversation starts flowing. Sabina explains the situation is classified. Even her presence in Azure City isn't public. If word spreads she's here, the bandits will scatter instantly. And Rohan definitely doesn't want that. He agrees, but still questions whether it's really okay trusting this mission to 2 kids. One of them doesn't even know what the word nervous means, and the other doesn't exactly look ready for something this big. Leo's thoughts drift to his mother. She once said she couldn't believe he was jealous of that second son. But still, that bastard really did get lucky. He remembers her asking how he could act friendly with Karan after what happened 3 years ago. He told him Karan isn't his friend. He's his rival. Karan embarrassed him and stained his father's reputation. Yet Leo still laughs with him like nothing happened. She asked if he even had a brain, if he had a tongue, he should use it. Leo told her they aren't rivals. Even Hugo, the genius heir, didn't reach 3 stars until 14. Karan did it at 13. Leo himself only reached 3 stars this year at 15. He should be able to see the difference. Karan might be his goal, but he can't be his rival. He told him to throw away that inferiority complex. Leo said it wasn't that. Karan's existence is what pushes him to work harder. It's what keeps him moving forward. He said his eyes showed he was blind, staring at the trees but missing the forest. Sabina snapped him out of his thoughts. He asks if he's really that shaken. He admits he is. He says that's natural, it's his first mission. Then she asks if he'll even be able to cut someone down when it matters. Karan's the type who'd abandon Leo to save himself. But Leo isn't like that. He doesn't need to doubt himself anymore. He's seen how hard he's worked these past 3 years. After all, she's the one who trained him. Leo agrees and calls her master. He smiles and says that title suits her nicely. They've got 20 minutes before arrival. She pats his head, stands, and tells him to address her as master for the rest of the mission. She walks away. Rohan asks where she's going. She explains if she shows up at the station, word will spread immediately. So she needs to move ahead first. Rohan points out the train is still moving. He calls her the White Empress. She corrects him, just call her Lady Sabina. Then she ignores whatever else he was saying. She tells him she'll be watching over the 2 idiots. So he doesn't need to worry. And even if something happens to them, his house won't be held responsible. Then she just jumps off the moving train. Karan laughs, saying she's as bold as ever. Both Rohan and Leo are thinking the same thing. Why is everyone in the Riston family like this? Cut to an old man coughing. This is Rohan's father. He says his health isn't great, so he hopes they'll forgive him for receiving the young wolves while seated. Karan tells him not to worry and asks how his wounds are healing. The Baron says he's past the danger stage and thanks them for their concern. He mentions he met Karan and Pale 10 years ago, as Karan's grown wonderfully since then. Karan tells him to speak casually since formal etiquette makes him uncomfortable. Rohan suggests at least calling him young lord. Karan insists it really puts him more at ease this way. The Baron says if Karan's already on his first mission, he must have reached 4th star at a young age. Karen mentions Leo's already at 3 stars though. Leo wonders why he keeps catching strays. Karen's surprised the Baron knows about this despite not being a warrior. The Baron says even if he isn't one, Karen being dispatched shows he's highly regarded. Because of that, he hesitates to place such danger on promising young men. Karen says he understands the concern, but if they fail this mission, it would stain the honor of the Blue Wolves. They have no intention of failing. He asks Leo if he agrees. Leo says they'll see it through no matter what. The Baron laughs and thanks them. Then he starts coughing again. Rohan asks if he's alright. Karen says he needs rest and they should take their leave. The Baron nods and says he's entrusting this to them. The old man bends. Prepared, just follow him. As they start moving, Leo calls out to Karen. Karen asks if he's already tired. Leo says that's not it, he just wants to know if they can really trust this herbalist. Even if he's a skilled local guide, there's no guarantee he isn't working with the bandits. Karen smirks and asks if Leo's finally started using his brain. He confirms the guy is absolutely part of the gang. Leo asks how he's so sure. Karen reminds him about the conversation he had with Rohan at the station. He'd asked how they planned to locate the bandits' base. Rohan said they had no choice but to rely on a traitor inside their territory. Karen thought it was a smart move. Leo still isn't convinced and asks why Karen didn't mention this earlier. Karen says Leo spent the entire day wound up in nerves, so there was no point. Leo thinks to himself that Karen knowingly working with a traitor proves he's seriously cunning. Karen agrees. The fact the guy hasn't been punished yet says enough, but it also shows how desperate the situation is, which is why they're the bait now. 2 noble sons traveling through the barony toward a neighboring domain. Perfect bait. Looks like the bandits are about to take it. The herbalist turns around. Bandits step out behind him. He says this works out nicely. He even brought more than promised since they're nobles. A bald bandit says these young masters don't look like they'll surrender quietly. But Karen was already expecting violence. He instantly draws his blade, calls them insects, and demands to know how they dare spread drugs in his father's territory. But back to the Belly's manor. The Baron is still coughing badly. Rohan rushes over worried, asking if he's alright. The old man insists he's fine, even though he's clearly not. Rohan hands him water like that's going to fix years of wrecked health. The Baron thanks him. Rohan asks if the 2 young dukes will really be okay out there. His father gives a long answer. Sending 2 kids into bandit territory without intel basically means the higher-ups trust they're built different. He says Karen in particular reminds him of the young duke. Not just the appearance, but that same bold confidence and relaxed presence. He's convinced they'll be fine. Rohan nods, still uneasy but trying to believe it. But back to the forest. And yeah, it's a slaughter. Karen is tearing through bandits like he's speedrunning them. Heads dropping left and right. Leo's standing there watching this kid wipe out grown men, thinking yeah, he's a monster. Even the bandits are panicking. One tells the leader they need to retreat and warn the main group. But the leader's pride won't allow it. He charges forward yelling about not being humiliated by a brat. Jumps into the air, releasing his aura. Karen doesn't even blink. He casually swings his sword, annoyed the guys shouting so much. The leader gets cut clean in half. Drops to his knees, probably regretting everything. Leo's stunned, wondering when he even drew his own blade. Karen wipes blood off his sword, irritated his clothes got stained. Leo sheaths his weapon, remembering how overwhelming Karen's aura felt. He could have had his throat cut without noticing. The remaining bandits throw up their hands, shouting surrender again and again. Karen asks one his name. The man says Yura. Karen asks if he's got rope. Yura says yes. Karen tells him to bring it. Leo has no idea what's happening. Next thing he knows, both of them have their hands tied. Leo asks if they really need to go this far. He understands tying themselves up, but making the bandit carry their weapons seems excessive. Karen explains the plan. They're bait trying to locate the base. It won't look convincing if they stroll unarmed. This way, it actually looks like they were captured. And he asks Yura if they're deserters. Yura admits they are. From the 9th Regiment, 1st Battalion, 3rd Infantry Division of the Kingdom of Seas. Leo realizes they're southern soldiers from the war zone. Karen asks how many of them there are. Yura answers 130 men, including a mage and 2 night escorts. Karen's surprised about the mage. 130 deserters alone is already huge. Yura is sweating now. He finally understands these aren't normal noble kids. That blue aura in Karen's eyes earlier. These are children of House Ristan, core of the Orish Empire. Karen keeps thinking about the mage. Why would deserters travel this far north? Yura says it's simple. Their commander promised enough money for everyone to retire comfortably. So they followed him, but Karen's not convinced. Why would a random infantry commander have a high-level mage? And why play bandit just for cash? Something doesn't fit. Yura says they're almost there. Karen nods, saying he'll see for himself soon enough. They reach the stronghold. Men on the watchtower shout down at Yura, asking if he actually captured hostages. Where's the rest of the group? Why is he alone carrying their weapons? Yura spins a story. That he captured the brats himself. This is his prize, so nobody else better lay a hand on them. Part 9. And he keeps talking, saying the rest of the crew is off chasing the guards who ran, so they better hurry up and open the gate already. One of the guys up top starts teasing him, asking if he's all hyped about finally getting praise from the boss. Another one laughs and goes, man, took you long enough. Yura snaps back at them to shut up. Karen's watching all this and casually notes that for someone who joined a bandit crew, Yura's weirdly soft. And he mentions he's been sensing something off this whole time. Yura's sweating bullets, staring at Karen's blade and muttering he's been getting creepy vibes. Karen nods and says if even the sword's reacting, then yeah, this might be worse than he thought. Leo suddenly points ahead and tells him to look. They see birds nailed up everywhere, crucified and left hanging. Karen's expression hardens instantly. If there are sacrifices displayed like that, then yeah, they're dealing with black magic for sure. So just like that, what was supposed to be a simple bandit raid suddenly turns into some full-on demonic cult situation. Han stands there realizing things are about to get messy real fast. He immediately tells Yura to cut the ropes and hand their swords back. And right on cue, the magic circle on the ground lights up. Karan tells Leo to draw Sulfid his sword and be ready because he's going to need it. Leo like, what do you mean by that? And then skeletons start crawling out of the ground. Seeing that, Yura completely loses it and starts screaming. The entire undead army rises up. Some guy nearby starts yelling that the hostages literally walked into their trap, calling it a blessing from the gods or whatever. Then the leader of this group steps forward, surrounded by archers, welcoming the precious noble brats. Han scans the area, noticing there's no sign of the Black Wizard. Figures the guy's probably hiding somewhere chanting creepy demon stuff. And Karen pulls a total power move. He grabs Yura and holds him hostage, threatening to slit his throat. Asks the bandits if they're okay with that. Yura's absolutely shaking. Leo like, bro, how are we the ones taking hostages now? Aren't we supposed to have noble honor? The leader just stares at them for a second while his archers keep their bows trained. Then he asks how a noble can take hostages when honor is supposed to be everything. Karen fires back with, why not, you guys do it. Meanwhile, Yura's just standing there terrified. The leader finally says Karen's amusing, but he's wrong. Worthless hostage means nothing, and Yura is completely expendable. Karen actually looks annoyed and straight up calls Yura worthless to his face. The big guy starts tearing up. Leo's quickly doing the math and realizes they're massively outnumbered. He asks Karen if he even has a plan. Karen goes, yeah, obviously, we just take out the commander. Then he starts releasing his aura. The commander recognizes the color and mutters there's no way. Karen tells Leo he'll handle the commander himself. Leo's supposed to deal with the skeletons alone. Leo's like, what do you mean alone? Then Karen's azure mana explodes out around him like ocean waves. He launches forward off the ground. Leo calls after him, but a skeleton instantly attacks. Leo blocks and yells, Karen, what the hell? How am I supposed to handle all of these? The commander screams for the archers to fire. But Karen's already closing in. He says they're way too slow. Using fortress sword style, his movements flow like waves. One swing later, multiple archers lose their arms at once. The commander reaches for his sword. Karen calls it a nuisance and swings. The commander looks down to see his own severed hand on the ground. Drops to his knees screaming. Karen casually tells him if he planned to attack, he should have moved faster. Through the pain, the commander calls him a bastard, as there's no way the fortress has spare strength to send here. So why are you even here? Karen explains this barony borders his father's territory. He's not going to kill him. He's dragging him back to the fortress instead. Meanwhile, Leo's out here fighting skeletons like it's dynasty warriors. Karen glances over and says he's not bad, even though Leo's probably internally screaming. The archers still have their bows raised, but nobody's shooting now. They just watch this kid disarm them and cut off their commander's hand. Karen tells Leo that his technique worked for the Sea Wave style, but he should really be crushing enemies with raw strength instead. The commander asks if Karen really thinks he's leaving alive. Karen asks his name. He says Michael Knox. Karen says he's not killing him, then stabs him in the knee anyway just to make a point. Michael screams again. The archers are frozen. Karen laughs and tells him to order his men to drop their weapons. Michael yells it out. Weapons start hitting the ground. Karen nods and says he likes obedient people. Michael can't believe they lost to 2 kids. But he keeps talking tough. Says once their reinforcements arrive, even Karen won't manage it. Even if he's from House Reston. Karen says it sounds like he's still hopping. Asks if he's counting on the Black Wizard, and whether he really thinks his family would send only 2 kids. Leo finally finishes the skeletons. And suddenly, a huge explosion. Karen sighs and says of course they had a guardian knight. And thanks to how long he wasted talking, it looks like his master already captured the Black Wizard. Cut to her walking in. He's carrying the wizard's severed head. And she looks furious. Leo calls out to her. She immediately starts yelling at both of them. Says they missed the most important evidence and the mission, nearly a failure. Karen casually kicks Michael off the platform, and asks if she at least liked his approach. She says charging straight into the enemy base is exactly something her brother would do. So she'll give him credit for that, and she tosses the wizard's head toward them. Michael stares at his friend's severed head in horror. She asks Karen why he even pulled that hostage stunt. He explains they wanted to strike where nobody would expect. No one assumes nobles take hostages. He admits that's fair. That she's never met a noble like him. He's a complete lunatic. Karen thanks her like it's a compliment. Michael's just sitting there bleeding, wondering if these people are even nobles at all. She tells them to head back to Lord Belly's castle, because she has a lot of questions for Karen. He agrees. Michael looks once more at his friend's head, and thinks these people are absolutely insane.